Now let's see how to do the frequency in SQL. So first of all, you need to download the Model 4 Practice SQL file from the canvas. So right here, a lot of students, they made a mistake that they downloaded the file straight from the folder. Don't do that, because if you do that, you will open the file without opening your MySQL local database. So we want to open our local database at first, by clicking this local instance, and then going to the MySQL local database and then open the file. Okay, so like what I've done here. And change the database name to your database name. Some of you might have the same database as me using the Lead Business. Some of you might using the database as your name, using your name as database after you've done the first assignment. So it doesn't matter. Just to make sure that your database, you're using the same database here with the database in the left schema list. So make sure like this part, they are matched. You need to run a query and refresh your database, and now you should see two new tables in your database. So here, you don't need to highlight any query and execute it, because we're running the whole file named the Model 4 Practice. So you don't need to highlight anything. You just need to click the execute and run the whole queries. Okay, and then you can click the fresh button and you will see there were two tables showing here. One of them called audit record and another one called soft drink sales. So let's use the soft drink sales table at first. And we're gonna open a new SQL query file to write a new query, and let's write this query together with me. So the first of all, since we're trying to get a frequency of the drinks from the 50 people, right? So, but like before we do that, the first thing I want to know is how the data looks like. Because if we want to write the query, we want to know what the data looks like at first. So I'm gonna using select all from. So remember what that means? That means we're gonna check all the data from a specific table. So I'm gonna run select asteroid from a soft drink sales table. So by doing this, I can see all the tables, I can see all the data in this table, how it looks like, and then I'm gonna decide what query I will write. So now I can see this is what soft drink sales table looks like. There are 4 columns, including ID, drink name, quantity, and transaction date. So since we're looking at the frequency of the drink name, we don't need other columns. So we only need the drink name, this specific column. So instead of select all, the select asteroid from the soft drinks, we can change it to select drink name from the soft drink sales. And since we want to know the frequency of the drink name, so we can use this query, which is called count asteroid. So count asteroid, which is also the count all, as the frequency. You need to run this query. So in this query, the select the drink name means we select the column drink name from the soft drink sales table, and it groups the result based on the unique values in the drink name column. And count asteroid as frequency means counts the total number of the row for each unique drink name in the soft drink sale table. The result is analyzed as frequency, which shows how many times each type of the drink appears in the table. Now let's run this query, and oops, you can see that there's an error. So we need to check this error. So what it will do is you will right click this arrow and then click copy response and then paste it into here, and we can read this arrow to see what is going on. Okay, and this arrow said in aggregated query without group by blah 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 blah. So that means it is pretty obvious that there is a group by statement which is missed. So what exactly is a group by statement? So the group by statement in MySQL groups rows that have the same value into summary rows, like find the number of the customers in each country. So the group by statement is often used with aggregate functions like count, max, mean, sum, or average to group the result set by one or more columns. So you can check more information in W3 School. I provide you the link in the reading material. Now we will remove this error code and add the group by at the end of this query. Please remember we have to add this group by before the semicolon. Okay, because this is still inside this query section. So we add group by drink name, and then we will run this query again. Alright, it works well, and you can see the result showing the drink name and the frequency. And then now we can write other two lines in the query to calculate the relative frequency and percent frequency. And then this line, the count asteroid divided by 50. This calculated the relative frequency of each drink type by dividing the frequency count by 50. And these steps assume that the 50 is the total number of the cells you are considering for normalization. For example, if a drink appears 10 times, then the relative frequency would be 10 divided by 50, which is 0.2. And this is similar to the calculation for relative frequency, but the result is multiplied by 100 to convert the value into a percentage. So it multiples the relative frequency by 100 to get a percentage representation. For example, 0.2 will become 20%. So this result is analyzed as percent frequency. And then from soft drink cells, specify the table from which the data is being selected. And group by drink name. So this groups the result by the drink name column, means that the count asteroid, relative frequency, and percent frequency are calculated for each unique drink name in the table. Now we can try to execute this query to see what the result looks like. So this is the result for frequency, relative frequency, and percent frequency. However, you can see from result that there are multiple decimals in the result, which I don't like it. It doesn't look good. So what I want is I want only keep 2 decimal in the result so that it looks good for me. And it will be more viewer friendly for the people who actually see the report. So what we can do is we can add a round in the query. The round 2, so this is the function, the round function in the MySQL. It rounds the relative frequency value to 2 decimal place. So I add a round before the count asteroid divided by 50, comma 2. right? So this is how round works. And then I also add the round, the same thing in percent frequency. So make sure that you round it before multiple by 100, okay? So because we want to round it at first and then multiple by 100. And then let's execute this query again, and then you will see that the result right now has only 2 decimal, and that is what I want. And at last, you can try the order by. Well, I didn't wrote it here, but it's not required, it's optional. But if you want, you can try. So this orders the result alphabetically by drink name. Now let's see how to generate the frequency distribution table for quantitative data. So in this case, we were using the table called audit records. Same as before, we were using select asterisk from audit record to check all the data. So now we can see we have 4 columns. And but in this case, the only column we need is audit times. So we're gonna select only audit times from the audit record. There's a mistake, I missed one S, so it's fine. And now we can see that this is the audit times column, and since this is quantitative data, so we will create the bins based on this audit times. And in this case, if we want to use quantitative data to create the bins, we will using case statement to create another column called column time bins. So the case statement goes through conditions and return value when the first condition is met. It's similar to if-else statement. So once the condition is true, it will stop reading and return the result. If no conditions are true, it returns the value in the else clause. And if there's no else part and no conditions are true, it returns none. So in the reading material, I provide you link for W3 School website, and you can check the detail. And when we come back to this example, when we're using the case, we can use case to create the categories or bins based on the value of audit times. So the first condition is when audit times is less than 15. So when we write the audit times than 15, less than 15, and we use then to provide the value under this condition. So that means when audit times is less than 15, we will give this new column a value called less than 15. And don't forget to use the single quote, because we provided the values for these specific columns. We will use the single quote. And then the next condition would be when audit times between 15 and 19. And in this case, we will give it a value called 15 to 90. And we still use then to make sure that when the condition is fulfilled, we will give this value to the new column. So then we will use the same method to provide other values for other conditions. Like can copy paste here and then just change the value to give 20 to 24 when audit time is between 20 and 24. And same thing when audit time is between 25 and 29, then we'll give it a value called 25 and 29. And then we just have one conditions left. And in this case, we don't need to copy paste everything. We can just say else, right? So because like else is when no conditions are true, when no condition above the true, it will return the else clause, right? So when else, we give the value as more than 30. When we finish the all conditions, don't forget to insert and to end the whole case. And we will select the audit timeset first to make sure that this is the resource of our bins. And so we can run this query and let's check the result. And now you can see the result. There are two columns. The audit time columns is from the original table. Other columns, the result we get from the case statement, right? However, in this case, we know that the column name means case blah blah blah. So this is very hard to understand. So what we can do is we can create the column names for this new column using the SQL alias method. Remember, we're using S, right? So, and in this case, we don't need audit times anymore, so we can delete the audit times. At the end of the case, add as bins. And after that, we can, using the same method from above, to calculate the frequency, relative frequency, and percent frequency. And in this case, don't forget, we have to change the account of the data set from the 50 to 20, because the 50 was the number of the data set for soft drink sales. But in audit records, we only have 20. So we will change this number to 20. And then we can run this. Oops, there's a mistake because we missed the group by statement. So we have to add the group by. And in this case, we can use the names we used before, right? We can use the name we created as the alias name of the case statement, which is the bins. So, and then the result showing that we have the bins, which is all the group of audit times, and then we have the frequency, relative frequency, and percent frequency. So this is how we created a frequency distribution for quantitative data by using the case statement. Now, for the third question, to summarize the descriptive analytics of the audit time variable in Excel, we need to go to the Excel to do the descriptive analytics. However, we don't have the data in Excel yet, so we need to go to the SQL to collect the required data we need. And so this is the whole table of the audit records, but since we only need audit times, so we use select audit times from the audit record. And we will copy paste this table, this data into the Excel. So what you're gonna do is you will highlight this audit times and right click any area of the highlight data and select copy row unquoted. And then we open the Excel and paste the data into the Excel. So now you will find the data on the toolpack and click the data analysis. So this is the tool that you need to allow from the Excel. So in the Mac, for example, in the Excel of the Mac, you can click the analysis tools and then select both analysis toolpack and solver add-in and click OK. The solver, we will use that later. For the students who use Windows, you can click this link I provided in the reading material and follow the steps and to activate the data analysis toolpack if it is not visible. Okay, and then after you activate this analysis toolpack, you can click this data analysis toolpack and then find descriptive statistic, and then click OK. And then you will see this statistic window for you to set the parameters. So first of all, you have to select the input range. So in this case, we have input range from A1 to A20, right? And then we said group by the columns. And then output options, we select output range to C1 because we want to put it here. So if you select the output range, that means you specify a cell or range where the result will be placed within the same worksheet. And since we choose C1, so which means the result will show at column C. And you can also select new worksheet, which is to create a new sheet in the same workbook, which is same Excel to display the results. Or you can create a completely new workbook, the new Excel, to store the result. And then the third requirement would be the summary statistic. You have to select the summary statistic checkbox so that the tool will calculate the variety of the summary statistic for the data, such as the mean, median, standard deviation, etc. And so that we can see the results shown here. And these results show all the information, including the mean, the median, mode, standard deviation, as well as the range, minimum, and maximum. And then for the question 4, I wanted to create a data explanation report based on the descriptive information we get from on question 1 and to question 3. So what I want you to do is you can open an empty Word file and then create a table with 4 columns, including the variable, original table, frequency, and statistic information. So for example, the first question, we got the frequency from drink name of the table, soft drink tables, right? So we just need to copy the drink name in the variable and then copy the soft drink sales as the original table. And then you can go to the SQL to execute the frequency query we just did, get the frequency table, and do the screenshot and paste it in this Word report. And since the drink name is the categorical data, so only statistic information we need is the mode. So you can just type in here like the mode is Coca-Cola. And then for the second question, we have we get the frequency of audit times from audit record. So we just copy the audit times here as the variable and the audit record as the original table. And the same thing, we go to the SQL and we do the screenshot of the result of the frequency query and paste the screenshot here under the frequency in the report document. And then since the audit time is the quantitative data, so we get a lot of information, statistic information, by finish the question 3, which is in Excel. So what you can do is you can type in all the information we need. However, if you don't want to type in anything, you can simply just do a screenshot of the result in Excel and then paste it into the Word report. So that's also fine. So this is how we finish the Model 4 practice assignment. If you have any question, please let me know through the email or join the QA session every Thursday and Friday.